to start off the session, which is Finding Balance in the New World, the deep dive. I would like to call on Chukwuma Aligwekwe.
Or good evening, ladies, rather. Women are really, really taking over. And if you came over here, thanks for being on the winning side. Anyone who's there is going to miss something, trust me. Now, women are taking over. I went to use the loo, and I've come to this place quite a bit, so I know where the men's loo is. And I got there, and there was this sign on the door that said, women's toilet. And I'm like, hang on. And then there's a lady there, and she's like, sir, I'm sorry. And I'm like, but it's the men. She says, no, women have taken over for today. And I'm like, okay, fine. And I left. But women, give yourselves a round of applause. Now, how many of us know the name Amanda Azubike? Now, Amanda Azubike has just been promoted to the rank of Brigadier General in the United States Army. Honestly. So, it speaks to the fact that women are indeed taking over. And if you're part of this year's WIMBIZ annual conference, then you're in the winning team, and you're going to be one of those ladies standing over there getting the accolades. Can you say amen? All right. So, I'm your moderator. Yes, my name is Chukwuma Aligwekwe, but you can call me quite simply Chico. And I promise you, I'm going to keep this moving along very swiftly. We'll be out of here soon, having filled ourselves with information, tidbits on how you can find balance in this new world. Now, I got some expo because I've been talking to women all day. In fact, I've been talking to women since I was told I was going to moderate today, and so I've got quite a bit. The first thing, the last bit of information I got is that, is there really a balance? We're going to look at that. Can you keep with the trends and then use them to either find that balance or to forge ahead in this new world? Can you be innovative in your particular industry such that you can be successful in this new world? What are those things you need to look out for? What do you really, really need to prioritize? How are you going to negotiate it? We know that from the traditional roles of men and women, we say, well, the woman is at home and da-di-da-da-da. It's not like that anymore. In this new world, you have women who are the breadwinners. Yes? Absolutely. We have some of the most successful women in the world right here in Nigeria. And some of them are right here at this conference. Yes? That's you guys. So, I'm going to introduce and call up 3 accomplished women in their various fields who are going to share the information and who you get the opportunity to ask questions. And I've prepared a few questions I'll ask, but we'll open up the floor. So I'll call them up. As I call them up, please make them welcome. Because if you're really nice, then they'll share how they have managed to negotiate this new world to get to where they are today in their respective industries. We'll have a business owner perspective, we'll have a corporate world perspective, and we'll even have just that woman who is keeping it together on the home front, but negotiating the things that she needs to do to be successful in this world. So welcome to the Deep Dive Plenary 2, Finding Balance in the New World. So here we go. So I normally get I normally put a few things out of the way. You see, a moderator, his work is never really done except there's that foot in the mouth moment. So when mine happens, please pretend that you didn't notice so we can just keep going. The first person I'm going to call up is Audrey Abaka. Please put your hands together for Audrey. Now, Audrey is the head of SME, Agency Banking and Partnership, and president of Women's Network Forum, ABSA, Ghana. Please welcome her with a round of applause. Our next panelist, put your hands together for Nwamaka Onyemelukwe. Now, from here on in, I'll just call her Amaka, so that's who I'll be talking about when I call her up. She is the Director, Public Affairs, Communications and Sustainability for Coca-Cola, Nigeria Limited. My questions have been tailored so we can get what we want from those areas. I mentioned them earlier. So we're going to dive straight into it. My very first question is for yourself, Audrey. If you want to take a few minutes to say a few words, that's fine before you go into the question. But my first question for you is this. Being in the banking industry and heading the SME agency of your bank, ABSA, can you give us a sense of the nature of the disruption you've witnessed in recent years, and if it was particularly more disruptive for female SME business owners?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The way we do things, the way we relate, the way we communicate, the way we even work. And for me, I think it came to cement the fact that we are living in an unpredictable, uncertain, and ever-changing world. And I'm happy we're talking about the new world. In fact, this disruption has shifted the world. It is not the same again. And that is why you and I must understand the world in which we live in and what is expected of us to continue to survive. Now, this is a disruption that devastated so many lives, millions of lives, families, homes. This is a disruption that in the business world, we saw businesses that did not have roots, did not have proper foundation, structural foundation, struggle, and even collapse. And you mentioned, if women were heavily impacted, yes, many reports by, very reputable institutions like the World Bank, IFC, indicated that women were the most hit. In fact, in my country, we saw a lot of women entrepreneurs struggling. And that is what made some institutions pay attention to women and come up with various interventions that would help them to survive at that time. But I observed something. For us, especially in Africa, to have survived this pandemic, I saw resilience. I saw strength of the mind, and I saw faith. I remember in my country, at the heart of that pandemic, women entrepreneurs were interviewed, and they fought it. I remember these women saying that we are not going to allow the pandemic to take away our very livelihood, and we will resist it with every breath in us. And that was the power of faith. So for you and I to be seated here, it's a miracle. And the future can only be better. That is why I am personally inspired that as women, we must fire forward, keeping the future in focus, because there are so many opportunities, I believe, in the future.
Wow. Kim, I've often found that there's this direct link between employee output or productivity and their emotional well-being, or should one say mental well-being. Now, to what extent do you agree with this statement, and why, in your opinion, do you feel it's particularly true when it comes to women? So I want you to take this from a female perspective. I know that as a guy, I get emotional at work sometimes. I really do. So I'm thinking, well, what is it like, for women?
Thank you very much, Chiku. Let me follow Audrey's part to say that I'm so pleased to be here today. It's an honor, and I want to use the opportunity to thank the organizers of WIMBIZ 21st Annual Conference. It's actually my first time ever attending a WIMBIZ conference, and I'm glad that I'm serving as a speaker today. So looking at my question, and if I have to answer, I will say yes, 100%. There is a direct link between emotional well-being and productivity. You see, a lot of us, we equate success with progress maybe in one particular area of our life. But in reality, success is multidimensional. And if there is an incident in one area of your life, it's going to have an impact in one or several other areas of your life, including work, okay? And when you say emotional well-being, if you look at the critical areas of life, health and wellness, emotional well-being comes under health and well-being and wellness, right? And imagine an imbalance in that area of your life. It's going to trickle down to every other areas of your life. Okay? And I'm so glad that post-COVID-19, a lot of us are becoming so aware of our mental health, our well-being, especially women all over the world. We are so particular about our well-being. But then it's important to understand that well-being goes beyond mindfulness, healthy living. So for professional women, well-being is more about how we feel about all the important areas of our lives. I call them the critical areas of our lives. How do we feel? So coming to the workplace scenario, what constitutes well-being challenges for professional women? You are thinking about your relationship with your colleagues. You're thinking about your relationship with your co-workers. You're thinking about how purposeful or valued, especially around the kind of work you do, the quality of work you do. You're thinking about your health. A lot of us have health challenges that we are struggling with that is impacting our well-being. But sometimes we are quiet about that. We don't talk about it for fear of maybe someone seeing you as inefficient or ineffective. But these things constitute mental struggles, and they impact our well-being a whole lot of times. And then I say that whatever interventions that we are putting in place in terms of prioritizing well-being of professional women, we should also think about things around self-awareness. Think about the quality of our work, our social connection in the workplace. Because when we don't prioritize those important areas of our lives, our health, our physical health, it's going to have a major impact in our well-being, and ultimately it will translate to our productivity. I have several experiences to share, okay, in this place, but I don't want to take much of our time. I believe that as we go deep down into this conversation, I will be able to drive down my point and show you how or what the link is exactly in terms of emotional well-being and productivity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nkem. Remember, just a reminder, my questions are really, these questions are, let's call it a male perspective. And I live in a different world. So it's really important. I'm really looking forward to hearing the questions that the ladies, the women here today come up with when those questions, I want them to come from the answers that I'm getting from our panelists this evening, so that because we're meant to be diving deep, all right? So let's go deep and ask those questions so that from here on out, we've got 3 panelists, 3 successful women who clearly have negotiated these challenges that we're discussing today to rise to where they are. So we're going to dig into the knowledge and how they've done that. so you can apply it in your various areas of endeavor. So, it's time for our third panelist, Nwamaka Onyemelukwe. Now, Amaka, you are a director. You've risen to director level in a multinational organization that, as someone said to me, that the first known word everybody knows all over the world, I think the first one was Jesus Christ, the second one is Coca-Cola. And now, and you're there. Now, everybody knows that organization. It's deeply rooted in almost every country in the world. Can you share with us any challenges or constraints that you've encountered rising to this position, as well as how you overcame them? Simply put, is there room for more growth, or is there a glass ceiling for women?
Thank you so much, Chico, for that question. So for me, I really would like to be as vulnerable as possible, because I believe that this is a conversation for all of us. So yes, in terms of being a director today in one of the most iconic brands all over the world, but then the question in terms of, are there glass ceilings? The answer is a bold no. There is no glass ceiling for that woman. Because I believe that there is no better time to be a woman on the continent than now. So our time is now, especially for the African woman. For me, really, I would say that I'm fortunate to work for a global organization that has prioritized women and has realized the power of women. Globally, we have aspiration to have 50% of women in leadership. And listening to the panel sessions today, especially for leading across borders, I would say that is a great task that we have in our hands. At the global level, we have 39% leadership in the company and 61%. But in Africa, we have 55% of our leadership as women. And then 54% of our workforce as women as well. So we are way ahead of the global workforce, and that is something very important. And most importantly, 2 of our businesses in Africa, big businesses, the South African franchise is led by a woman, and the East and Central African business is also headed by a woman. And that tells us that really, of course, Nigeria is a great example of a lot of, more often than not this year, I think we have the highest number of women CEOs in the banking sector and the likes. And really, that's one thing. It's really not because of the culture that we want to drive in terms of closing the gender gap. I also think that the African woman or women are beginning to show up and show up strong. And that is one thing that if we could do it, then every one of us in this room have the potential to do it. And I want to share some life experiences. So I'm that woman that got married in school, in my 3rd year in the university. In my 4th year, I had a child. Therefore, I was studying pharmacy. It was a very challenging course at that. I had to grapple of managing a young child, be my best self in my academic pursuits, and balancing it. It was very challenging, but one thing was clear for me. I knew that I could not drop off because I had a dream. And what I learned earlier on is to multitask and also to prioritize. And I think it's one act that all of us in this room need to actually, and then also to have empathy, because it's something that you must have partnership to do. Family partnership, friends partnership, everyone around you, you must, and then that also comes with a lot of responsibility on your part to be empathetic. Today, from my driver to everyone around you, it's something you have to learn to be accommodative and to be very empathetic about them. And then they're going to work with you to make it possible. When we talk about the men, like, for example, I think that is one aspect. And I was thinking really that WIMBIS, maybe next year, we should actually invite more men. Because raising that awareness for the man is quite important. Because gender partnership is key.
Guys, can you know.
Gender partnership is key. for you to be able to drive that. And I believe that is all we need to be able to overcome those challenges. And I think as we go into the discussions, I will share more on that front. Thank you.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting indeed. You know, I did mention that I had asked a few questions in the build-up to this of different people. It's been a week of asking those questions. And one of the questions that I got from at least 4 different men that they wanted me to ask, which I scratched off the list, was that, you know, when you've got women who are in powerful positions or senior high positions in organizations in the corporate world, that can you ask them why it is that they feel like that means they'll go home and then boss the guys in their lives around? And they asked this question in different ways, you know, but I heard Amaka mention empathy on the part of women. So I hope that we noted that. Empathy, it can help you get to where she is. So let's come back. We've gone full circle now. I think what we'll do is we've had the first round and each of our speakers has had a word. I think just so as you are involved in what's happening, let's take a few questions from the floor. I am going to take 3, and I'll try and spread it out. There's a hand up over here. Just pick any of our 3 panelists who you want to direct your question to. All right? I'll pass the mic to her.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Erike Salami. My question is to Ms. Nwamaka. You said something about multitasking. I don't want to have an issue with that. I grew up with that same mentality, growing up around women, learn to multitask, do this, but I don't know if it's just me, I feel like sometimes multitasking can, we end up forgetting important things, or one aspect of our lives will be suffering while the other one is booming. So how do we really multitask? Because by the time you're doing this, I feel like we're doing, for me, it's like I'm doing half of everything. And at the end of the day, I look at everything, I'm like, I've not achieved everything as a whole. So it's like doing jobs half done, halfway. So how do we really, really multitask?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. So for me, when I say multitask, I also don't mean that you are going to do 1,000 or 10 things at the same time. But as a woman, I think it's inborn in us to multitask. So meaning that at a very young age, even within children, you notice that a woman is able to understand that somehow, even if you're the youngest in the family, she kind of takes care of everybody in the house in terms of, have you eaten, have you done this? It's an innate thing that we have as women. So imagine at a time in your career, you will be pregnant or just have a baby. You are able to sometimes stay up at night to take care of the child and be your best self at work the next day. You don't also want to show up to keep giving excuses, and that's where the stereotype that we are talking about comes in, on the unconscious bias that we have as women. And for us to be able to break that, you need to be your best self in everything you do, but of course, prioritization is key. I talked about multitasking and prioritization, because at that point, you know that you have added responsibility in terms of taking care of a young child and also having a work that you must deliver. There are other things probably you would have loved to party in the night that you have to let go at that point in time. But if you feel that, oh, all my friends are going for party, I must be there, then you are actually trying to kind of put yourself under some strain. So you must be able to learn at a particular point in your life, depending on, because we will all have it not the same way. So I did mine, of course, I got married at a young age. That's different. There are people that probably mid into their careers, they start having a family somehow, and that's why the perception, people think that married life or something can slow you down. But I think that it's going to add in terms of, it's bring diversity into your life. It enriches your experience. And I think that if you miss it at a particular point, then there are things you begin to mix. So having the ability to understand at a point in your life, you have to prioritize, but then have the innate ability to multitask and still deliver on them is quite important. For me, and to answer your question directly is, as much as you must multitask, please do not take on so many things that you then feel like you're doing them halfway and leaving them behind. Prioritization is very key so that you are able to, it's a balancing act, and I think that is what we are discussing. How do you balance at a particular time of your life and deprioritize some aspects that later in life, if it's something you really love to do, you can bring it back in terms of your to-do list. And at the end of the day, you've seen that throughout the course of your journey, like your lifetime, you've been able to touch base of those things that really matters to you, and none would have probably suffered, or you couldn't have achieved it in your lifetime.
Okay, good evening. My name is Ijoma Nunibe. My question goes to the harmonizer. Yeah. So I wanted to know, is there really a thing as work-life balance? So you know people always talk about work-life balance, and it gives you this concept of 50-50. I know it closely ties to her question, but you know, how do you really harmonize all parts of your life so that if there's really a thing like work-life balance, you're able to achieve it, if such a thing exists?
Thank you very much. I think that's the reason why I call myself the harmonizer, right? Because over the course of my experience working with busy, overwhelmed, and burnt-out professionals, I have realized that work-life balance is an effort in futility. Because think about it, I mentioned that we have about 12 critical areas of life. And if you think about the amount of energy, the amount of time, resources that each area of your life deserves, put them, just think of them as a weight, right? And put all those critical areas of your life on a scale and weigh them. They're not going to weigh the same thing. So that's why I say you can't balance life. It's not possible. So with that experience, I have realized that it's important that we find out at every point in time what our priorities are. When you find out what your priorities are, then you can apportion the right time, the right energy, the right resources to those demands. So what exactly is harmony, which is what I propose? Think about music. There are different tones. You have the alto, you have the soprano, you have the tenor. So when you bring all those different tones together, that's when you achieve a melody, and that is harmony in music. And that is how we should be able to approach life. Because really, you can't apportion the same amount of time, energy, and resources to every area of your life. And that is what balance tries to preach, that everything must happen 50-50. But I said, no, it can't happen 50-50. Think about it. In 24 hours, you have about 14 hours to give to your job. So what do you do with the rest of the hours? So you have to find out what truly matters and focus. So I wanted to answer her question when she talked about multitasking. So let me try to infuse my response to her question. I truly appreciate Mwamaka's response. But then I realized that you can't do everything at the same time. That is why it's important to focus. If you want to produce quality work, you can't multitask effectively. Let me tell you the truth. Multitasking is the most efficient skill that you will ever have. Okay? The important thing is to find out what is important at every point in time and commit the right amounts of time, energy, and resources to do it. Think also about when you are on a date and you are expected to have quality conversation with someone, you are eating, you are pressing your phone at the same time. Do you think you're going to have a quality conversation? No. So what is important at that point in time is to have quality conversation, being in the moment. So for every task that you have to do, it's important that you are in the moment, enjoy the moment, and produce quality work. Thank you.
Chiku,
Thank you.
if I may also,
Yes, go ahead.
This is a very important question that, as women, we need to delve deeper into because it comes up, severally at women fora like this. Now, let me just have a twist to, what my sisters have shared. Now, there is nothing like balance in life, like she mentioned, where you share 50% of your time, one for your career and another for your life. There's nothing like that. It's about effective management of your life. Now, one thing we must understand is that, you see, our lives consist of some key elements. Your career, obviously, I would say the most important because that is what gives us the money. And money is life. Money is our blood. So we tend to invest a lot more of our time, a lot more of our energy and our effort into our career life. It is very good. Now, there are also other important aspects of our lives. Your spirituality, your health, your intellectual ability, your relational aspect of your life, your social aspect, all of these are very important. Now, you attain fulfillment and harmony and peace if you are able to create time to touch on most of these elements in your life. Now, you have to decide at every phase, because life is in phases. Throughout the changing scenes of your life, there will definitely be a time where career becomes very important. There will be a time where your education becomes very important to you. Your social standing becomes very important, your health. Now, at that phase of your life, you have to decide that I'm going to, give a lot more of my time to my career. I'm going to give a lot more of my time to my health. And then you put in the effort to at least touch on some of these other aspects of your life to attain fulfillment. Now, there is one woman. It's always important to learn from women or people who have gone ahead of us. There is one phenomenal woman that inspires me so much. Her story has been told globally for centuries, and we continue to tell her story. Unfortunately, she doesn't have a name. We call her the Proverbs 31 woman. So those of you who are familiar with that phenomenal woman, this woman is an embodiment of professional and personal balance. She was praised for her professional life. She was praised for her spousal duty. She was praised for her social contribution. She was praised for, her community contribution as well. And one thing I learned from that woman was how she managed her time. And if you want to really effectively manage your life and touch on the most important aspects of your life and attain fulfillment, we have to be very wise with the 24 hours that the Lord has given us. You can't waste it. And there are so many things, especially in this new world, that are competing for our time. And women, we have to be wise. We have to be able to sit back and say that this must go, this must go, this must stay. And then create that time. That woman will wake up very early in the morning. So early in the morning, she creates time, touches on her spirituality, touches on her family, and plan for the day. And she stays up late. So we need to learn to plan and also learn to conserve our energy to be able to touch on these important aspects of our lives. Then we can say we are managing our lives effectively.
Well, unfortunately, there isn't a Proverbs man. But so, hey, we push regardless. All right, I know that we were going to take 2 more questions, but look, we've got quite a few questions to go, and once we're done with those, I will come to the floor. The floor is going to close this, so please bear with us, so as we can go through, the questions. I'm going to come back to you again, Audrey, with my next question. I do apologize to the 2 ladies whose questions. You will get the next question opportunity, I promise. All right. So staying with you, Audrey, most people speak about disruption in a negative sense. But I'm of the school of thought that believes there are some positives that come from disruption. If you come to my bedroom, it looks untidy. It will probably look untidy to you. But honestly, it's tidy to me. And if you organize it, then I can't find my socks anymore. So look, what I want to know, I suppose, is for you to share with us some of the positive outcomes that can come from disruption, which has led to innovative milestones in business. It will be a bonus if the examples you want to share are those of female-owned businesses.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much. I'll look at this from two perspectives, from the personal perspective and then the business perspective. And I'm going to dwell on the recent disruption that we all experienced, that I talked about earlier on. Now, before COVID, I was pursuing career advancement because at that time, I thought that was the most important thing to me. I wake up very early in the morning before the kids are up, sometimes before they wake up. I rush because I always want to beat traffic. And I come home very late. One day, one of my kids asked me a question and I nearly cried. That, "Mommy, where did you travel to?" Because for a whole week, they had not seen me. And I had not traveled anywhere. It's just that they wake up, they don't see me. By the time they are going to sleep, Mommy is not at home. And I travel quite often, so they thought that, oh, as usual, she has traveled. That day I cried. Now, the COVID pandemic to me was a blessing because my life was heavily skewed towards career. And it was COVID that settled me. Because for 1 year, I worked from home. And thanks to my company, they told me adequately to be able to work from home. And that was where I was able to deepen my relationship with my spouse. There is lockdown, it's you and me now, so we have to enjoy. Before, you come home very tired. Your husband wants to touch you, you are tired, then you continue to turn and toss on the bed. And sometimes the men get frustrated, but at the lockdown, I was all there. And it was also the time where I got closer to the kids. And ladies, to be honest with you, I have a 14-year-old girl, I have a 12. They became so lazy to the extent that you go to their rooms and the room is disrupted, scattered. It was COVID that helped me bring order to these young ladies because I was able to now provide motherly nurturing care, training, and coaching. So for me, it was a great blessing. On the business side, now, it is a known fact that across the globe, the small and medium enterprises, and I'm sure some of you are business owners here, they actually carry economics. Every nation, every economy has grown, expanded at the back of these small and medium enterprises. And that was also the sector that was heavily disrupted by this pandemic. So just imagine that economy crashed. What do you think would have happened to nations? So all of a sudden, it became the center of attention. The government was paying attention. Commercial banks like us, we were paying attention. International NGOs were paying attention. Development partners were paying attention. Everybody began to focus on the SME because they had to intervene and help them to survive. And I'm happy to say that in Ghana, the Ghana Enterprise Agency was mandated to develop interventions to support these businessmen and women, especially with women. And partnering with MasterCard Foundation, God bless that institution. They are doing so well across Africa. They were able to inject funding, grant into businesses, and about 60% of that investment went to women. My company, when I became the head of SME, I saw my job as a calling. And I had a strong sense of responsibility to support women entrepreneurs and empower them economically, as well as empower them intellectually to build sustainable businesses. So, by God's grace, we were the first bank to have partnered with MasterCard Foundation. They gave us, some good money to build capacities of these women. They also direct lending because at that time, banks were afraid to lend. Through that partnership, we were able to lend extensively to women and also reduce the interest rate. So these were some of the blessings and the benefits that the disruption brought about. And I want to encourage every woman sitting in this room that, look, the disruption has brought opportunities. Now every commercial bank is saying that they are SME-friendly bank. They are women-friendly bank. What are you doing? Are you approaching them to explore the opportunities to build and grow your business? Now we are giving out loans without collateral, which used to be a very, very serious hindrance to many businesses. In Ghana, for the women, we are able to give up to 1 million and we give the men 500,000. It's discriminatory, but women need funding. And we also are able to reduce the interest rate so that women can borrow at a considerably lower rate. These are all opportunities. And then finally, the disruption forced business people to bring out their ingenuity, their innovativeness, and their creativity. We saw businesses reimagining their business model, reimagining the way they relate with their clients, reimagining how to leverage technology to increase sales, increase revenue, and increase profitability. So it was indeed a blessing as well.
Welcome to the new world. All right, let's come over once more to you, Nkema. My next question is, working for a service-oriented organization, what strategies and policies do you advise should be put in place to ensure a robust performance management system that takes into consideration not only personal productivity levels of the staff, but also analyzes the mental well-being of its workforce, as well as offering adequate access to help if required?
Thank you once again. In answering your question, I would like to say that an effective performance management system has to be holistic. And when I talk about holistic performance management system, it's not just about, I'm sure every one of us, we are used to the balanced scorecard, right? It's not just about taking account of the customer, the financial, the process, and probably the organizational capacity. I think that an effective performance management system should have a fifth perspective to the balanced scorecard. And that fifth perspective should be wellness or well-being. And I'm so glad that, yes, absolutely, it should be wellness. Because if you care about the people that work for you, if you care about their well-being, it should be a priority. It should be a key business focus. And I'm so glad that in my new role as head of employee services and wellness, I said I am driving the vision of a healthy and a wealthy place to work. It's no longer a great place to work because anybody can say what is great, but it's the organization and most importantly, the people, the critical assets, are they healthy? Because if they are healthy, they will help the organization to drive their performance, productivity, and of course, profitability. So it's important that we drive the conversation around well-being and add it to the balanced scorecard conversation. But then again, answering your question deeply, I would like to say that there are several strategies that we can deploy. And the first thing here, which is very important, is the coaching intervention. A lot of organizations, in fact, I would say within this climb, we don't consider coaching as an important business conversation. But coaching, I would say, transformed my life. And I'm so glad that that experience happened in the workplace. sometime around 2015, 2016, I was going through some personal challenges, and those personal challenges were so evident in my performance. In fact, that was a period my line manager and even the senior colleague was like, and then I was in a financially driven role. I was in a sales role. And that was the period that my performance dwindled. It was a period I did the least because of the personal challenges I was having. But then I was so glad that I was called to order. The management saw what was going on with me, and they called me to order and offered me a coaching and mentoring opportunity. So coaching and mentoring, let me just link both of them together. Coaching and mentoring opportunities or intervention should be a key driver for success in every organization. It's not just about achieving organizational goals, it's about achieving personal goals, because I believe that leadership starts from self. And that is what coaching does for you. Coaching helps you see your capacity. And when you're able to see your capacity, you can drive performance at every level. And what does coaching talk about? It helps you set SMART goals. Goals that are specific, goals that are measurable, goals that are attainable. And of course, goals that are time-bound. So when you do that for yourself as an individual, you can also do that as an organization. It's also important that we begin to drive conversations around employee assistance programs. Because we are in a VUCA world, and VUCA here means volatility, it means uncertainty, it means complexity and ambiguity. A lot of things are happening. Before I resumed in my current role, I had to engage an employee. I don't want to go deep into that conversation, but it was an employee of our organization that was kidnapped, and he was being traumatized. Thankfully, he was released, and he was being traumatized. But that was my first assignment in the organization, because as a coach and as a therapist, I had to engage him, and I realized that he was going through deep-rooted challenges as a result of that incident. And tell me how that employee is going to be productive. There's no way he's going to be productive. So these are the things, some strategies, performance management strategies that we have to put in place in the organization. Think about leadership development programs as well. And think about health, recreational activities that will help people to bring out their innovative and creative selves. So when we build these things into the policy of the organization and make it a culture, you are going to see an organization that is not just healthy, but that is wealthy at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. We'll put this last one to you, Amaka, and then it's questions from the floor as we round up. Now, Amaka, with your background in public relations, communications, and sustainability, you're in that leadership position in your organization. What would you say is the most innovative public policy step that multinationals have been able to take in these disruptive times that adequately supports the multidimensional role of women in the workforce?
Thank you so much. So for me, when we look at this question, I know that it's not the same for all multinationals, but if you were in the room in the morning, you would see the P&G lady who shared what her organization has done. And for me, I think the best policy that supports the women is the flexi work style. That's COVID. I know a lot of organizations were championing that, but COVID brought it closer. And listening to my dear sister, Audrey, share her experience of what the 1 year disruptive lifestyle was able to cost to her, I think it's the same for almost all the women in this room, especially the people that work for multinationals or global organizations. So today, you are allowed to have a flexibility around how you work. And I think most of us has been struggling, and that's also where when we talk about balance, my sister said, does balance exist? So you have a young child who you are meant to be part of his life, and most times you have to go on business trip, you have to be away, Lagos have also made it difficult because of traffic situations. You stay long hours in traffic. And sometimes there's this guilt that comes to you. Are you being the best mom or the best wife? So that flexibility is one thing that even those SMEs, I think we have a big opportunity to adopt. And also technology. Because with flexibility, I don't think that the productive work hours actually decreased. If not, productivity has actually increased for these companies. And so I really want to encourage all of us here, because we are leaders in our own right, in our little way. Presence doesn't actually bring about productivity. So even in your business, it is critical that you look at a small way, even if you run an SME or medium-sized organization, how can you bring flexibility for your workforce, especially the women? Because a young mother who has just come from maternity leave is struggling. I've had cases of childcare is so super important now, because people probably don't have support system, so they don't know where to drop their children. Some drop off their children, they close earlier than they would get home. It's a struggle for most young women who are actually at the peak of their career or trying to have pursue a career. And your life will not stop. We believe that we live to work rather than, you don't work to live. And you have the right to enjoy it. And I think that's one thing that the multinationals are leading that a lot to learn about, because it had brought productivity to their businesses. They are actually making more profits even before the pandemic, because productivity has increased. So that is a learning that we all, and then also cost saving, because they saved a lot of costs. Most of my offices, we have to give out some floors to retain less floors. The running cost of the diesel is reduced, and people are happier. As a woman, you have the flexibility to go to your children's open days. You are now part of their life more. And also, when the policies are, one other thing also is leadership by example. More often than not, the policies are there, but they are not being lived out. So you have good policies that says flexi work style or flexibility, but you see people are afraid because they don't want their bosses to have a conscious bias or unconscious bias about their performance. Therefore, people, even when you're not meant to be there, you still show up, because you don't want your male colleagues to misjudge you. So we are now encouraging leaders, for example. It's okay for a leader to say, at 10 o'clock today, I have to take off 2 hours to go for my child's open day. The leader does that so that the subordinates can know that they would be able to do that without being misjudged. And I think that is one critical thing that we should actually encourage, because we have to be part of living our lives, even showing up at the workplace. And then at the end of the day, one thing that has come across is that people are the center. Everybody is saying people are the center of organizations. People are the center. But at the end of the day, even in our little ways, people that work for you, in your houses, how are you also implementing some of those policies? Sometimes your driver can show up, and you look at his face, and you think you don't care about it. His work is just to drive. If you spend a few minutes to ask him, what happened, what is happening in your life, you might be amazed that probably he needed 2 hours to go for some medical checkup, but he really doesn't know how to say it. If you grant him that 2 hours, I assure you that even some weekends where he's not meant to show up, he's going to show up and ask you, what else can I do for you? And that is one thing that we'll begin to learn as women. Your nannies. So another struggle, really, that everybody, the popular story in town where Davido has lost his child as a result of drowning, and everybody is saying negligence, negligence, negligence. I don't think there's any mother that wants to pass through that process and get yourself blamed for the rest of your life, that you were negligent, or probably you've gone on a business trip and something happens to your child. And I think that is part of one thing that we should actually learn how to not be too hard on ourselves, because I was also in that place where I've missed some Mother's Day. One day my child calls me. I was actually at CMS. I used to live in Festac for those days. And he says, "Mommy, where are you?" Because he has just woken up and he didn't see me. And I said, "I'm on my way to work." He said, "But Mommy, today is Mother's Day." And I'm like, "I have an important meeting in the office." And then it was my husband's phone. He used to call me, by the way. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I might not be able to come. And he was like, "No, Mommy, I've told everybody that my mom is coming today. You have to come back." And at that moment, I put out my phone and I called my boss and I said, I'm sorry, I have a family emergency and I will not be able to be at the meeting today. And nothing happened. I turned my car and I went back home. So then, as they grew up, sometimes they know that mommy will not be around. It's also good to talk about it. Your spouse, again, that gender partnership is very important. You need to talk about your work, what you do, so that emergencies, when it comes, you have to be in Abuja tomorrow, and he knows that there is something critical that you've been working on. It's easier to have that conversation. And then when you're around, show up strong in terms of be there, be present. You can't sleep and wake up by 10 a.m. in those days that you are there. So there's also a part of hard work and resilience that have to come for your part. There are things you have to let go to make these things happen.
Thank you very much. I see the body language of my Oga. So we're just we're gonna round up with questions from the floor. Please go to the lady with her arm up at the back there. If you can make your questions quick, and then for the speakers, please let's restrict our answers. 60 seconds, because I've got notes that we are out of time now. But it's just that I made this promise, so please let me fulfill it. We're going to take questions from the floor. Our aim will be to get at least 5. So over to you, madam.
Thank you. My name is Mercy. Amaka, thank you so much for your vulnerability. Means the world. Because we don't always talk about this. I want to speak on you speaking on the practical steps that you took. Because oftentimes when we share, they are not necessarily practical for people to go and take action. I'm a rape survivor with a child to the testament of that. Do you understand? And with no parental support, by the way, I've had to find my way. So for the benefit of the women, as I was coming for this conference, the rate of depression is high. Mental issue is now heightened as a result of the inflation. Now, you spoke on gender partnership. Can you give us practical example? Whether it's colleague, whether it's your marriage, so that we take some actionable item out of this place. And I'd like you to speak on burnout, because you actually spoke on it. What did you do to overcome burnout? Because burnout is real. And a lot of women are going through massive burnout. How can you encourage more women to speak out? Because burnout for me led me to almost losing my life, literally. So, and these are realities that is confronting a lot of women. Shame, fear of judgment would not allow them to speak out, either to friends or to people that are close to, because they are not sure how to receive those information without judging them. So I just want practical conversation, not, thank you so much.
Okay. Are we going to take the other questions, or we just answer
let's
them?
take all of them and then we'll wrap it all up.
Please, let's make it very short.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anachina Chizoba. Okay, talking about partnership, like you said, what if you have a spouse who do not support your career path, who want you to be a housewife? How are you able to convince that person? And what kind of conviction do you think you can give to that person? Because you have some men say, okay, they're fine with you being a career woman, but 2-3 years into the marriage, they're saying you're no longer going anywhere, just be at home. So what will you do?
I saw a hand at the back there.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Eunice, and I'm a Salesforce developer. So my question is for you, Nkem. I heard you mention performance conversations that involve wellness and health. And as someone who's very passionate about people development, it's struck a bell in me. So I'm wondering, so not everybody is a self-starter. Not everybody is self-motivated. Some employees can get, entitled. So how do you try, and I believe that most organizations try to, play it safe so that we can meet our KPIs. rights and don't go into that bucket of entitled employees, when you start having those conversations with them. So can we get some practical ways or tools that have helped you to be able to strike that balance between an employee's wellness and still keeping the person accountable to his KPIs and his performance for the company?
All right, okay, pass it to me, please.
Okay.
Right, as you can hear in the other place, they've actually wrapped up over there. So we're going to do the same, but I will give the ladies one at a time. We've got 3 questions, and if each of you can just address those questions very quickly, if we can do it in 60 seconds, so we're done. But I'm going to plead with our speakers to please give a moment, even after we've wrapped up, for any questions that the ladies might have in one-on-ones with either of you, just so as it makes up for us not being able to take all the questions that would have come.
Okay. Because of time, I'm going to merge the 2 questions in terms of gender partnership. So it's both ways. Your partner and also be it in your workforce. The lady from P&G talked about paternity leave. One thing is critical is that by the time the men understand more the role of the women and what they do, they become more empathetic. So your spouse too, don't think he knows. So you need to communicate. My sister said 2 years down the line, he doesn't support your career growth, then there begins to be a problem. Don't give up. Open the lines of communications. It's very critical. So for me, actually, it's not as if all the steps I've taken in my career life, my husband had it 100%, but we talk about it. Be open to criticism in terms of constructive criticism. He's going to say no to some of them, but then don't also give a damn in terms of, I don't care, it's my life, and then you walk away and you close those lines. So that communication needs to be open. He needs to understand your aspirations, and I tell you, continue to do what you do best in terms of being that woman. Be present when you are there, and it's going to go a long way in terms of removing some of the barriers you might face. I think I'll leave it at that, and we can take it offline. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, so on the burnout, because I have been there, because I do so many things, just one practical, because there is no time. You see, before you even get to the stage of burning out, the body will be communicating to you. Now, we have to be very sensitive to the body. Now, when the body starts talking to you, you are tired, you are drained, you are getting weak. Listen and begin to reflect on some of the activities that you must slow down on. Because all the body is telling you that you need time to pause and rest. But you need to create that time to be able to rest. So there are some activities that must pause. There are some no's you must say. You can't say yes to everything all the time. When you have to say, let me tell you, this evening, my boss asked me to call him. I hope he's not watching me. When I go, I'm not going to call him because I'm tired. I'm going to send him a WhatsApp that, you know what, I'm so drained. Can we talk tomorrow? So that I can rest. My body says you are tired. But, you may want to please your boss. So, your boss says, call me when you are In fact, I have been busy throughout, haven't I? I've not had the time to call him. And you are my witnesses. So why must I call him when I'm drained and when I'm tired? I need to relax at the poolside. I need to just forget about everything. Switch off my phone if I have to switch off. No social media, no WhatsApp. And just have a me time and reflect. And as you reflect, you regain your energy back.
Thank you. Finally.
Finally, yes. Finally, you talked about the conversation around wellness, right? And how do we prevent employees from becoming entitled, right? Okay, so I think it's important for us to understand that at the point of entry, when you are accepting your offer, there are 2 types of contracts, right? The first contract is your offer letter, right? And in your offer letter dictates your job description, what is expected of you, your OKR or your KPIs. This is the reason why we employed you, That is the first contract. The second contract is where the benefits, it's where the employee value proposition comes. And these are the things that the organization offers you. And it's called the psychological contract. But which is more important? Actually, both of them are important, right? But in terms of monitoring your performance, in terms of rewarding you of your performance, the first one is very, very critical. Because if I have set KPIs for you, and at the end of 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, you are not meeting your KPIs, I will probably not confirm you. I will probably put you on PIP, what we call Performance Improvement Program, or I'll probably ask you to go because this is my contract with you and you are not meeting them. For the psychological contract, is what I owe you as an employer to take care of you. So it's not yes, it's an entitlement, right? But then it's also very, very important that I, as an employer, I offer you those things, benefits. And those are the things that I present to you. Those are the things that attract you to my organization. Those are the things that I present to you as what makes me the employer of choice. So it's now my responsibility as the employer to fulfill those. But let me tell you why that one is also very important, aside the first one. Because when, as an employer, I'm not meeting them, it could be a reason why I take a decision to resign. Yes, it could be a decision why I it could be a reason why I decide to resign, to leave your organization. So both of them are very critical, and you have to find a way to measure them. So let the employee understand that performance measurement, performance appraisal is important. And let them also understand that you care about them so much that you want them to stay, you want to retain them. So find a way as an employer to let them know that it is their entitlement, because you can't take that away. Most of them, that is the reason why they stay with you. It's your proposition, it's your proposal to them that I am an employer of choice. So don't take it as, it's actually an entitlement where you're offering it to them. You said it's their entitlement. Leave is an entitlement. So I deserve to go on leave. I don't have to wait till I burn out before I go on leave. Medical insurance is my entitlement. So it now depends on how you present it and how you measure it. That's why I said it should actually be a fifth perspective to the balanced scorecard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the Deep Dive 2 plenary session, Finding Balance in the New World. Can I ask you to please put your hands together for Nwamaka Onyemelukwe, Nkem Ofonabo, and Audrey Abakan, our speakers today. Please put your hands together for them.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Please, 1 second before you leave. I'd like to invite Anatu Adegboyega to present your gifts and also do a quick photo session. There's so much information in one day. I know for a fact men can multitask, but my brain, I'm trying to remember, what did I hear this morning? What was the first night? Don't forget, guys, tomorrow we start very early. We have health conversations. We have Chim Amanda showing up. I heard that's how to pronounce the name. We have a debate going on with amazing people. We have a Aproko doctor there. You know his mouth. So many things. Now we have an after party where you have to wear white sneakers. Please, please, let's come out early so we can be faster than today and also get all the information we need and all the knowledge we need. Thank you for coming out today.